Hi, my name is Sarah Christine, and I'm your host for this Action Canada series on public policy. Action Canada est un programme pour les leaders émergents qui s'intéressent aux politiques publiques. Ces leaders viennent de partout au pays, de tous les horizons, et travaillent dans toutes sortes de différents emplois. Ce qu'ils ont en commun, c'est qu'ils souhaitent contribuer au pays en passant par les politiques publiques. In this video, we're going to explore how a changing government impacts policy. Usually when there's a new government that comes to power in Canada, there is a change in policy. New leaders may continue some existing policies, modify others, or create entirely new initiatives that align with their party's platform and promises. Public servants help maintain continuity while implementing the new government's vision. L'ampleur et la rapidité des changements de politique dépendent de facteurs tels que les priorités du nouveau gouvernement, les ressources disponibles et la nécessité de collaborer avec d'autres ordres de gouvernement. Écoutons maintenant les fellows d'Action Canada qui vont partager leurs expériences et leurs connaissances sur la question.
A change in government means that voters have had the chance to voice their opinions and send new people to represent them. New leadership means new policies, new vision, but those are all based on people exercising a democratic right to voice their opinion and send their leaders to a place where collectively they make decisions that are best for everybody.
So when a new government is elected, they've often been elected because of the changes that they've promised. They come with new ideas, and that's what the public wants to see.
When a government changes, if it's a new government, there's going to be a new philosophy on the role of government in people's lives. Different programs are going to be more or less supported, and just the approach to policy is going to be different. And so with a change in government, you're going to see new priorities, whether that's maybe more of a focus on business or maybe more of a focus on the social sector.
Donc, pour les employés de la fonction publique, politique, que ce soit provincial, fédéral, municipal, souvent ça veut dire de soit mettre de côté des projets sur lesquels ils travaillaient déjà pour faire place à ces nouvelles priorités, ou être capable de défendre ces priorités-là qui étaient existantes pour pouvoir au moins les poursuivre, les terminer avant de passer à autre chose. Donc, c'est une machine complexe où il faut être capable de s'adapter rapidement à des changements et être capable de non seulement défendre certaines idées, mais aussi accepter que la personne qui a été élue parle pour le peuple.
A change in government could, in some ways, represent a continuity of many things. For example, governments at different orders will enter into agreements that go for many years on funding healthcare or education, and a change in government won't really impact that because there are agreements in place about how the money is spread over years.
Les gouvernements, quand ils arrivent en poste, ils vont être confrontés à la réalité sur le terrain. Donc, des fois, ça veut dire que certains éléments qui étaient des priorités pour eux durant une campagne électorale ne seront pas possibles nécessairement d'être mis en œuvre.
Usually, when there's been a change in government in Canada at the provincial level or the federal level, it's usually after been a long period of time. And so the party that's coming to power is having to relearn essentially how to govern. And it takes a while for them to figure out how to do appointments or who to appoint, or how the government is set up in the year 2025 when they come to power is probably not the way it was set up in 2015 when they left power. So yeah, it's a steep learning curve.
A particular challenge in Indigenous communities is in previous iterations of the Indian Act, it was actually like a 2-year election cycle, and so it almost seemed like a community or a nation would get a strategy just off the ground, and then all of a sudden you're campaigning to be able to retain or keep your seat, and maybe a new leader is chosen, right? So that's been a particular challenge across Indigenous nations and communities, is that life cycle of a leader or a council is almost short-lived. And so there have been many communities that have rewritten their electoral acts, Six Nations being one of them, and so our chief is no longer just in power for 2 years.
One example in Alberta is that our NDP government had put in a carbon tax. And this was meant to decrease how much pollution we put in the air. And then the next government came in and said, this is a cost. We need to get rid of this. We need to simplify. And of course, that's a big change when you're trying to do things to reduce emissions and you have a back and a forth.
Si on prend l'exemple au Québec, quand il y a eu le changement de gouvernement entre le Parti libéral et la CAQ, la CAQ est arrivée puis voudrait vraiment, je pense, mettre de l'avant la laïcité de l'État. Donc, le fait qu'on interdise, par exemple, le port des signes religieux extérieurs, des signes religieux dans certaines fonctions, a été la preuve de ça. Mais on ne l'avait pas avant. Donc, c'est comme, il fallait passer une loi pour confirmer, en fait, pour venir renforcer le droit de la CAQ de prendre des mesures par rapport à ça.
For years, there's been a constituency, a group of people within the province of PI have said we need a med school. We have a shortage of doctors. Well, after the change of government in 2019, the new government came into power, and especially during COVID, actually began entertaining the notion like, no, we're going to do a med school. So it's a good example of when a new party in power sometimes will re-examine an old idea. And in this case, the circumstances had changed, and the pandemic had effectively made people open to maybe reimagining how healthcare could be done in Prince Edward Island. So therefore, the government committed to it.
As you can see, the transition in governments and impact on policy represents democracy in action, as Canadians' electoral choices directly influence which policies are pursued. Il faut donc toujours profiter de l'occasion de voter et s'assurer de faire un choix informé.